The bus rattled down the street as 17-year-old Maya pressed her forehead against the cold window. She watched the neighborhoods change from familiar worn-down buildings to gleaming storefronts with perfect window displays. Her fingers tapped nervously against her thigh, playing invisible piano keys. Tonight had to work. It just had to. She got off 3 stops early to save the fare money. The evening air was crisp and she pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself. It wasn't much protection against the October chill, but it was all she had. The jacket used to belong to her mother. Sometimes when Maya buried her face in the collar, she could still catch the faint scent of her mom's lavender soap. As she walked, Maya rehearsed the piece in her mind. Every note, every pause, every emotion she needed to convey. She'd been practicing for 3 months straight. Her fingers had calluses from the hours spent at the old piano in the community center basement. The piano was missing 2 keys and sounded like it needed tuning, but it was free to use, and that's all that mattered. La Bella Vista came into view, and Maya's stomach did a nervous flip. The restaurant looked even fancier than the photos online. Warm light spilled from tall windows. Through the glass, she could see people in elegant clothes laughing and raising wine glasses. A valet in a crisp uniform stood at the entrance, opening car doors for guests who arrived in vehicles that probably cost more than everything Maya owned. She smoothed down her jeans. They were clean at least. She'd washed them twice yesterday and let them dry overnight in her tiny apartment. Her sneakers were worn but scrubbed. She'd even tried to polish them with a bit of soap. Her shirt was the nicest thing she owned. A simple black button-up she'd found at the thrift store for $3. It had a small stain near the hem, but she'd tucked it in so no one would notice. Taking a deep breath, Maya climbed the stone steps to the entrance. A woman in a sleek black dress stood behind a wooden podium looking at an iPad. She had her hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, and her makeup was perfect. When she glanced up and saw Maya, her welcoming smile froze on her face. "Can I help you?" The woman's tone had changed completely. It wasn't friendly anymore. It was the voice someone uses when they're already planning to say no. Maya tried to keep her voice steady. "Hi, I'm here for the open mic night. I saw the flyer that said anyone could sign up to perform." The hostess looked Maya up and down slowly. Her eyes paused on the worn sneakers, traveled up to the faded jeans, lingered on the thrift store shirt. Maya felt each look like a judgment. She wanted to shrink, to disappear, but she forced herself to stand straight. "I'm sorry," the woman said, though she didn't sound sorry at all. "We're fully booked tonight." Maya's heart sank. She leaned slightly to look past the hostess into the restaurant. She could see at least 5 empty tables, maybe more. Her cheeks started to burn. "But I can see empty tables right there," Maya said quietly, pointing through the glass doors. The hostess's lips pressed into a thin line. "Those are reserved? All of them?" "Yes, all of them." The woman crossed her arms. "Look, this is a high-end establishment. Our open mic nights are they're for our regular clientele. I don't think this is the right venue for you." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut. She wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what the hostess meant. She wasn't good enough. She didn't look right. She didn't belong here. A few people walking past glanced at her with curiosity, then looked away quickly when they saw her clothes. "I can play," Maya insisted, hating how her voice shook. "I'm really good. I just need a chance to show everyone, please." The hostess sighed like Maya was being difficult on purpose. "Honey, I'm sure you're very talented, but we have standards here. This isn't a charity. Maybe try the coffee shop on 5th Street. They let anyone play there." Maya felt tears starting to build behind her eyes, but she blinked them back hard. She wouldn't cry, not here, not in front of this woman. She'd cried enough over the past 3 years. When her mom got sick. When they lost their apartment. When her mom died in that awful hospital room that smelled like bleach and sadness. "I walked an hour to get here," Maya said, and she hated how small her voice sounded. "That's not my problem," the hostess replied, already looking back down at her iPad, dismissing Maya completely. Before Maya could respond, a man in an expensive suit appeared. He had graying hair and sharp eyes. A gold name tag on his jacket read manager. His expression turned cold when he saw Maya standing there. "Is there a problem, Christine?" He asked the hostess, but he was looking at Maya like she was something unpleasant someone had tracked in on their shoe. "This young lady was just leaving," Christine said smoothly. The manager nodded. "Good. Young lady, this isn't the kind of establishment for your type." He said your type the way people say something distasteful. We cater to a certain clientele. I'm sure you understand. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable elsewhere." Maya's hands balled into fists at her sides. "Your type." She'd heard variations of that her whole life. "Your type doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Your type can't afford that. Your type should know their place." "I'm here for the open mic," Maya said again, but her voice had no strength left in it. "The open mic is for established performers and our valued guests," the manager said firmly, "not for walk-ins off the street. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to leave before I call security." Security. The word made Maya's face go hot with humiliation. She wasn't causing trouble. She wasn't being loud or rude. She just wanted to play piano. She just wanted someone to hear her music. Was that really so wrong? A few diners inside had noticed the commotion. They were staring now, some whispering to each other. Maya could imagine what they were saying. Who let her in? Why is she bothering them? Someone should do something. "Please," Maya tried one more time, her voice barely a whisper. "My mom taught me to play. She died, and this is all I have left of her. The music. I just want to share it. Just one song." The manager's expression didn't soften even a little. "I'm sorry for your loss, but that doesn't change our policies. You need to leave. Now." Maya felt something break inside her chest. It wasn't a loud breaking. It was quiet and sad, like the last string on an old guitar finally giving up. She nodded once, not trusting herself to speak anymore, and turned toward the steps. She'd made it down 2 steps when she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me." The voice was older, refined, and carried weight. Maya turned around slowly, wiping quickly at her eyes. An elderly man in an expensive gray suit was standing at the top of the steps. He had kind eyes and silver hair. He looked like someone important, the kind of person people listened to. He was looking directly at Maya, and for the first time that evening, someone was looking at her like she was actually a person, not a problem, not an inconvenience. A person. The elderly man walked down the steps toward Maya with steady, confident movements. Up close, she could see the fine quality of his suit and the expensive watch on his wrist. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. They were warm and they held something she hadn't seen in a long time. Understanding. "You're here for the open mic night?" he asked gently. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice yet. She was still trying to process what was happening. The man turned to look back at the manager and hostess, who were both standing very still now. Their faces had gone pale. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation," he said, his voice calm but carrying an edge. "This young lady is here to perform, is that correct?" "Mr. Rothschild," the manager stammered, suddenly looking nervous. "I didn't see you there. We were just explaining to this girl that we have policies about our open mic nights, so that was his name. Rothschild." Maya didn't recognize it, but clearly it meant something to these people. The hostess, Christine, looked like she might be sick. "Policies," Mr. Rothschild repeated slowly. He looked at the empty tables visible through the windows. "And these policies require you to turn away a young musician while you have empty seats? Interesting." The manager opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked like a fish gasping for air. Mr. Rothschild turned back to Maya. "What's your name, dear?" "Maya," she managed to say. "Maya Chen." "It's nice to meet you, Maya. I'm Edward." He extended his hand and Maya shook it carefully. His grip was firm but kind. "Tell me, what do you play?" "Piano," Maya said, her voice getting a little stronger. "I've been playing since I was 4. My mom taught me. She was a piano teacher before she got sick." Edward's expression softened even more. "And you came all this way to perform tonight?" "I walked," Maya admitted. "I saved up money for weeks just in case I needed to pay something. The flyer said it was open to everyone, so I thought—" She trailed off, feeling foolish now. "You thought correctly," Edward said firmly. He turned back to the manager. "Mr. Davidson, isn't it? I've been dining at La Bella Vista for 15 years. I've brought countless business associates here. I've recommended this place to friends and colleagues." Mr. Davidson nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, and we're always grateful for your patronage. Then you'll understand when I tell you that this young woman is my guest tonight." Edward's voice had steel in it now. "She will be performing at your open mic, and she will be treated with the same respect you show to any other guest." "Am I making myself clear?" "Of course, Mr. Rothschild," the manager said immediately. He looked at Maya like he was seeing her for the first time. "Miss Chen, please accept my apologies. There was clearly a misunderstanding. Please come inside. Christine, the hostess, jumped forward, suddenly all smiles. Right this way, please. We have a lovely table available. Maya looked at Edward, confused and overwhelmed. Why are you helping me? He smiled, and it reached his eyes. Because 50 years ago I was standing where you're standing. Different restaurant, different city, but the same story. Someone gave me a chance when no one else would. I'm just passing it forward. He gestured toward the door. Shall we? Maya followed Edward and the suddenly friendly staff into the restaurant. Inside, it was even more beautiful than she'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting soft light over white tablecloths and gleaming silverware. The air smelled like expensive perfume and fresh bread. Maya felt completely out of place, but Edward walked beside her like she belonged there. They were seated at a table near the window. Christine brought water and menus immediately, apologizing again. Mr. Davidson appeared moments later with the owner of the restaurant, a tall woman in an elegant red dress. Miss Chen, the owner said, her voice smooth and practiced. I'm Mrs. Laurent, the owner of La Bella Vista. I understand there was an unfortunate incident at the door. Please accept my sincere apologies. It's not how we do business here. Maya nodded, not sure what to say. These people had been ready to throw her out 5 minutes ago. Now they were falling over themselves to be nice. It felt fake, but at least they were letting her stay. When would you like to perform? Mrs. Laurent asked. We have 2 other performers scheduled, but we can rearrange the order if you'd like to go first. Maya looked at Edward, panic rising in her chest. I don't want to cause problems for anyone else. You're not causing problems, Edward assured her. You're sharing your gift. That's never a problem. How about third? Mrs. Laurent suggested. That gives you time to settle in and prepare. Maya agreed, and Mrs. Laurent hurried away, speaking urgently to staff members. The restaurant was filling up now. More people arriving for dinner and the performances. Maya watched them, these confident people in their nice clothes, and felt her old anxiety creeping back. Nervous? Edward asked, sipping his water. Terrified, Maya admitted. He chuckled. Good, that means you care. The day you stop being nervous before a performance is the day you stop putting your heart into it. He leaned forward slightly. Tell me about the piece you're going to play. Maya hesitated. She'd never really talked about her music with anyone before. It's something I wrote. I've been working on it for months. It's called Echoes of Tomorrow, your own composition. Even better. Edward looked genuinely interested. What inspired it? Maya looked down at her hands. My mom, mostly. Everything we went through. She got cancer 3 years ago. We didn't have insurance and the treatments were so expensive. We lost our apartment trying to pay for it. We moved into this tiny place, just 1 room with a hot plate and a bathroom down the hall. She paused, the memories flooding back. Mom kept teaching piano as long as she could. Sometimes she'd be so tired she could barely sit up, but she'd still give lessons. She said music was the one thing no one could take from us. When she got too sick to work, I got a job washing dishes at a diner. But it wasn't enough. Edward listened quietly, his eyes never leaving her face. She died on a Tuesday morning. Maya continued, her voice soft. I was holding her hand. The last thing she told me was to keep playing. To share my music with the world. She said that's how she'd stay alive, through the music she taught me. I'm so sorry, Edward said, and he meant it. Maya could tell. After she died, I kept playing on this old piano at the community center. It's missing keys and sounds terrible, but it was all I had. I started writing this piece. It's about loss and pain, but also about hope, about believing tomorrow can be better even when today is really hard. Edward was quiet for a moment. That's beautiful, Maya, and brave. Not many people your age could channel that kind of pain into art. A waiter appeared with bread and butter. Maya realized she was hungry. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, saving her money for tonight. Edward noticed her looking at the bread. Please eat, he said, pushing the basket toward her. And order whatever you'd like. Tonight is my treat. Maya felt tears starting again. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. Edward smiled. Besides, you need energy for your performance. Can't play piano on an empty stomach. As Maya ate, Edward told her about his own story. How he'd grown up poor in Detroit, teaching himself piano on an old upright in his church basement. How he'd been kicked out of a fancy jazz club when he was 19, told he didn't look the part. How one person in the audience had followed him out and offered him a chance to record a demo. That chance changed my life, Edward said. I went on to produce music for 40 years, worked with some of the best artists in the world, but I never forgot what it felt like to be judged before anyone heard what I could do. Maya listened, amazed. This kind stranger wasn't just helping her. He understood her. Really understood her. Ready? Edward asked as Mrs. Laurent approached their table. Maya took a deep breath and nodded. It was time. The first two performers were good. Really good. A woman in a sparkling dress sang jazz standards with a voice like honey. A man in a tuxedo played violin, his fingers dancing across the strings. Maya watched them from her table, her anxiety growing with each passing minute. These people were professionals, they belonged here. What was she thinking coming to a place like this? Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs, trying to steady them. Edward reached over and gently patted her shoulder. Breathe, he said quietly. Just breathe. You've got this. But Maya wasn't sure she did. The restaurant was packed now. Every table was full. People were even standing along the walls, wine glasses in hand, dressed in clothes that probably cost more than her entire month's rent. They were here for entertainment, for a nice evening out. What would they think when they saw her walk up to that piano? Mrs. Laurent appeared at their table, her smile bright. Miss Chen, you're up next. Are you ready? No, Maya thought, but she nodded anyway. Her legs felt weak as she stood up. Edward gave her an encouraging nod, and somehow that helped. She made her way through the tables, aware of people's eyes following her. She heard whispers. Quiet words she wasn't supposed to catch, but did anyway. Who's that? Is she performing? In those clothes? Must be someone's daughter or something. Maya's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. The piano sat on a small raised platform near the windows. It was beautiful. A glossy black grand piano that probably cost more than a car. More than 10 cars. The bench was plush and elegant. Maya had only ever played on old, beaten-up pianos. This was different. Mrs. Laurent introduced her to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, our final performer of the evening is Miss Maya Chen, and she'll be playing an original composition. There was polite applause, but Maya could hear the lack of enthusiasm in it. They were clapping because that's what you do, not because they cared. She sat down at the bench, adjusting her position. The piano was at the perfect height. The keys gleamed under the spotlight that had clicked on above her. Maya placed her fingers on the keys and closed her eyes. For a moment, she wasn't in La Bella Vista anymore. She was back in that tiny apartment, her mom sitting beside her on their old piano bench, guiding her hands, humming softly. Music comes from here, her mom used to say, tapping Maya's chest right over her heart. Not from your fingers, they're just messengers. The real music lives inside you. Maya took a deep breath and began to play. The first notes were soft, almost hesitant, like someone tiptoeing into a dark room, unsure of what they'd find. Her fingers moved across the keys with a lightness that made the notes seem to float. This was the beginning of her story, the before. When life was simple and she was just a little girl who loved music and had a mom who loved her. She could feel the restaurant behind her, still buzzing with quiet conversation, the clinking of glasses, muted laughter. They weren't really listening yet. She was just background noise to their fancy dinner. But Maya didn't let that stop her. She played on, and slowly, the music began to change. The notes grew heavier, darker. This was when her mom got sick. When everything started falling apart. Her left hand created a deep, rumbling undertone while her right hand picked out a melody that sounded like crying, like begging, like praying to a God who wasn't answering. The conversations around her started to fade. Someone shushed someone else. Maya kept her eyes closed, lost in the music. She was playing the long nights in the hospital, the fluorescent lights that were too bright, the machines that beeped endlessly. The way her mom's hand felt in hers, getting thinner and weaker each day. Her fingers pressed harder on the keys now. The music swelled, filling the restaurant with raw emotion. This was anger, at the unfairness of it all, at the medical bills they couldn't pay, at the doctors who stopped trying because they knew the family had no money. At a world that let good people suffer because they were born into the wrong circumstances, the restaurant had gone completely silent now. Even the waiters had stopped moving. Maya played through the pain, her whole body rocking with the intensity of the piece. Tears were streaming down her face, but she didn't stop to wipe them. This was the part where her mom died, where everything good and safe in her life disappeared. The music screamed, it raged, it broke into 1,000 pieces. Then, just when it seemed like the darkness would swallow everything, something shifted. A single high note, clear and pure, cut through the chaos. Then another, and another, like stars appearing in a black sky. Maya's fingers found a new melody, softer, gentler. This was hope, small and fragile, but real. She was playing about the days after, when she'd wanted to give up, when getting out of bed felt impossible. But somehow she did it anyway. She went to work. She kept playing piano. She kept breathing, one day at a time, one note at a time. The music began to build again, but differently this time. Not with anger, but with determination, with strength. Her right hand carried a melody that climbed higher and higher, reaching for something better. Her left hand provided steady support, a foundation to build on. This was survival. This was refusing to let the hard times win. Maya's mom had always told her that music could say things that words couldn't. Things too big or too complicated or too painful for normal sentences. As Maya played, she felt like her mom was there with her. Not in a sad, missing her way, in a proud, watching over her way. The music was a conversation between them, a promise that Maya was keeping her word. She was sharing her gift with the world. The piece moved into its final section. The melody that had been struggling and fighting finally found resolution. Not a happy ending exactly. Life wasn't that simple. But acceptance. Peace. The understanding that you could lose everything and still find reasons to keep going. The music painted pictures of tomorrow, of dreams that refused to die, of a girl who walked an hour to a fancy restaurant because she believed in herself, even when no one else did. Maya's fingers danced across the keys now with complete confidence. Every doubt, every fear, every bit of shame she'd felt at the door had melted away. She wasn't that poor girl they'd tried to turn away. She was a musician, an artist, someone with something important to say. The final notes came like a sunrise, gentle, warm, full of promise. They floated up and up, filling every corner of La Bella Vista, touching every person there. Then, with one last soft chord, it was over. Maya held her hands on the keys for a moment longer, not wanting to let go, not wanting to come back to reality. Her heart was pounding. She'd poured everything she had into that performance, every bit of love for her mom, every ounce of pain from losing her, every drop of hope she had for her future. Slowly, Maya opened her eyes and lifted her hands from the piano. She took a shaky breath and turned to face the audience, not sure what to expect. What she saw made her heart stop. The entire restaurant was staring at her in complete silence, but people weren't looking at her with judgment or pity or confusion. They were looking at her with tears streaming down their faces. For what felt like an eternity, nobody moved. The silence was so complete that Maya could hear her own heartbeat. She stood there by the piano, unsure what to do, watching dozens of faces staring back at her with tears running down their cheeks. Then Edward stood up. He was crying too, not bothering to hide it. He started clapping, and the sound of his applause broke the spell. Suddenly, everyone was on their feet. The entire restaurant erupted into applause so loud it seemed to shake the crystal chandeliers overhead. Maya stood frozen, overwhelmed. People weren't just clapping politely. They were cheering. Some were whistling. Others were shouting, "Bravo!" A woman in an expensive dress near the front was openly sobbing, clutching her husband's arm. The man who'd been sitting by the bar had his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Christine, the hostess who'd turned Maya away at the door, was crying so hard she had to lean against the wall. Her perfect makeup was ruined, mascara running down her face. She caught Maya's eye and mouthed, "I'm sorry," over and over. Her face crumpled with genuine regret. The applause went on and on. Maya didn't know what to do with her hands, where to look, how to process what was happening. She'd hoped people might like her music. She'd never imagined this. An older woman in pearls rushed up to the platform and grabbed Maya's hands. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard," the woman said, her voice thick with emotion. "My daughter, I lost my daughter 5 years ago. Your music, it was like she was here with me again. Thank you. Thank you so much." Before Maya could respond, others were crowding around. A young couple, probably in their 20s, both crying. "We just found out my wife has cancer," the man said, his arm around his wife's shoulders. "We've been so scared. But your music, it gave us hope. It showed us we can get through this." More people pressed forward, all wanting to tell Maya something. An older man with gray hair and kind eyes said, "I lost my wife last year. I haven't cried once since the funeral. Couldn't. But your music broke something open in me. Thank you for that gift." A teenager, maybe 16, wearing a designer dress that probably cost thousands. "My parents work all the time. They think I have everything because we have money. But I've been so lonely. Your music understood that. It understood pain and hope at the same time." Maya listened to each person, tears now streaming down her own face. She'd written that piece alone in her tiny apartment, thinking no one would ever really understand it. But these people understood. They'd felt every emotion she'd poured into those notes. Mr. Davidson, the manager who'd been so cruel at the door, pushed through the crowd. His face was red and blotchy from crying. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice cracking, "I owe you more than an apology. I judged you before you even opened your mouth. I saw your clothes and decided you weren't good enough for this place. But you're too good for this place. You're too good for all of us." He paused, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief. "My mother was a cleaning lady. She worked 3 jobs to put me through school. She died before I could pay her back, before I could show her that I made something of myself. I forgot where I came from. I became the kind of person who would have looked down on her. Your music reminded me of that, of her, of who I used to be before I let this job make me cold." Maya didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Mr. Davidson continued, "You can eat here free, anytime you want, for the rest of your life. And I mean that. It's the least I can do." Mrs. Laurent appeared, her usual composed expression replaced with genuine emotion. "Miss Chen, I've hosted hundreds of performances in this restaurant. Jazz singers, classical pianists, famous musicians, but I've never seen anything like what just happened here. You didn't just play music. You connected with every single person in this room. That's rare. That's special." She pulled out a business card. "Please take this. I want you to perform here every week if you're willing. I'll pay you, of course. Good money. And I'll make sure the word gets out. You deserve to be heard." Maya took the card with shaking hands, unable to believe this was real. Just an hour ago, she'd been standing outside being told she wasn't good enough to even enter. Now this. Edward finally made his way through the crowd to Maya's side. He was smiling, but his eyes were still wet. "May I borrow Miss Chen for a moment?" he asked the crowd gently. People reluctantly stepped back, though many were still trying to touch Maya's arm or hand, like they needed to maintain that connection. Edward guided Maya back to their table, which felt like a small island of calm in the chaos. Maya collapsed into her chair, her legs suddenly unable to hold her up. She was shaking all over, from adrenaline or emotion or both. "How do you feel?" Edward asked, sitting across from her. "I don't know," Maya said honestly. "Like I'm dreaming. Like this can't be real." Edward smiled. "It's real. What you did up there, Maya, that was extraordinary. And I don't just mean your technical skill, though, that was flawless. You made people feel something real. In a world where everyone's numb and distracted, you cut through all the noise and touched their hearts." He leaned forward, his expression serious now. "I told you earlier that I'm a music producer. I've been in this business for 40 years. I've worked with Grammy winners, platinum artists, musicians who've sold out stadiums, but I haven't been moved by a performance like that in decades." Maya listened, her heart pounding. "I run a music academy," Edward continued, "the Rothschild School of Music. We train the next generation of serious musicians. Our students go on to play with symphonies, release albums, tour the world. It's a full scholarship program. Everything paid for. Room, board, instruction, everything." He pulled out his own business card and handed it to Maya. "I want to offer you a place. Full ride. You'd study with the best teachers in the country. You'd have access to practice rooms, recording studios, performance halls. You'd be surrounded by other talented musicians who take their craft as seriously as you do. Maya stared at the card, not quite processing the words. You're offering me a scholarship? To a music school? Not just any music school. The best music school. And yes, full scholarship. You wouldn't pay a cent. Edward's eyes were intense now. But more than that, I want to record your composition. Professionally, full production. We'd release it, get it out into the world. That piece needs to be heard by more than just the people in this restaurant tonight. I don't understand, Maya whispered. Why? Why would you do all this for me? Edward sat back, a sad smile crossing his face. When I was 19, I played at a jazz club in Detroit. I'd snuck in through the back, convinced the owner to let me play one song. I was wearing my father's old suit, 3 sizes too big. My shoes had holes in them. But I could play. He paused, lost in the memory. The owner let me play one song and I played my heart out. When I finished, there was one man in the audience who came up to me. He was a record producer. He told me I had something special. He gave me money for a proper suit, got me into a recording studio, introduced me to people. He changed my entire life. Edward looked directly at Maya. Before he died, he told me that the greatest thing we can do in this life is pass on the gifts we've been given. Someone gave me a chance when I had nothing. Now I'm giving you that same chance. Not because you need it, though you do, but because the world needs your music. People need to hear what you have to say. Maya couldn't stop the tears now. They poured down her face as she clutched Edward's business card. My mom always told me to share my music. She said that's how she'd live on. Through the music, she taught me. Your mother was a wise woman, Edward said softly, and she'd be so proud of you right now. Around them, the restaurant was slowly returning to normal, though people kept glancing over at Maya, pointing her out to others who'd just arrived. Maya could see phones out now. People were probably texting friends, posting on social media about what they'd just witnessed. What do I do now? Maya asked, feeling small and overwhelmed again. Edward smiled. Now you finish your dinner. Tomorrow we start planning your future. 3 months later, Maya stood in front of a mirror in a small dressing room, barely recognizing herself. She was wearing a simple but elegant black dress that actually fit her properly. Her hair was styled, and someone had even done her makeup. But it wasn't the outer changes that made her look different. It was something in her eyes. Confidence, purpose, hope. There was a knock on the door. 5 minutes, Miss Chen, a voice called. Maya took a deep breath. Tonight was the official recording release party for Echoes of Tomorrow. Edward had been true to his word. They'd spent weeks in a professional studio recording her composition with the best sound engineers in the business. The piece had been released 2 weeks ago, and something incredible had happened. It had gone viral. Not just popular, viral. Millions of people had listened to it, shared it. The video of her original performance at La Bella Vista, recorded on someone's phone, had been watched over 20 million times. Comments poured in from all over the world. People saying her music had helped them through grief, through depression, through the hardest moments of their lives. Maya still couldn't quite believe it. She'd gone from washing dishes and living in a tiny apartment to being invited to perform at concert halls. Record labels were calling. Interview requests came in daily. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once. But the best part wasn't the fame or the opportunities. It was the scholarship to Edward's Academy. For the past 3 months, Maya had been studying with master musicians. She had her own practice room with a beautiful grand piano. She'd made friends with other students who loved music as much as she did. For the first time since her mom died, Maya felt like she had a real future. Another knock. Edward peeked his head in. Ready? Maya nodded, though her stomach was full of butterflies. Tonight's performance was at a fancy theater. Important people would be there. Music critics, industry professionals, but also regular people who'd connected with her music online and bought tickets just to hear her play live. They walked down a hallway together and Edward put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Nervous? Always, Maya admitted with a small smile. Good, Edward said, echoing what he'd told her that first night. That means you still care. They reached the side of the stage. Maya could hear the murmur of the crowd beyond the curtain. Hundreds of people all waiting for her. A stage manager with a headset gave her a thumbs up. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed, "please welcome Maya Chen." The curtain opened, and Maya walked onto the stage. The applause was immediate and thunderous. She made her way to the piano, a gorgeous instrument that gleamed under the stage lights. As she sat down, the noise faded, and she looked out at the audience. In the front row, she could see familiar faces. Edward, of course, beaming with pride. Mrs. Laurent from La Bella Vista, who'd kept her promise and hired Maya to perform regularly at the restaurant. Mr. Davidson was there too, and even Christine the hostess, both of whom had become unlikely supporters. They came to every one of her performances now, making up for that first night. But Maya had insisted on leaving several seats in the front row empty. Next to those empty seats sat people from her old neighborhood, her former boss from the diner where she'd washed dishes, the woman who ran the community center where Maya used to practice, teenagers from her old building who'd never had opportunities like this. Maya had bought their tickets herself. If she was getting a chance to rise up, she wanted to bring her community with her. Maya placed her hands on the keys and closed her eyes for just a moment. She thought about her mom, like she did before every performance. She imagined her sitting in one of those empty seats, smiling, proud. Then she began to play. She started with Echoes of Tomorrow, the piece that had changed everything. But she'd added something new to it, a second movement she'd written last week. It was about transformation, about how pain could become purpose, how the worst moments of your life could lead to the best ones if you just kept going. The audience listened in rapt silence. When she finished, the applause was deafening, but Maya didn't stand up. She had more to share. "Thank you," she said into the microphone positioned near the piano. Her voice shook a little, but she pushed through. 3 months ago, I walked to a restaurant hoping someone would give me a chance to play. I got turned away at the door because of how I looked, because I was poor and didn't fit in. She could see people in the audience nodding, some wiping their eyes already. But someone did give me a chance, and that one chance changed my entire life. She looked at Edward. "I'm here tonight because someone believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. And now I want to do the same thing for others." Maya pulled out a piece of paper, her hands trembling slightly. This was the part she was most nervous about. "I'm starting a foundation, the Tomorrow Foundation. It's going to provide music scholarships for kids like me, kids who have talent but no money, kids who get overlooked because they don't look the part or come from the right neighborhood." The applause started again, but Maya held up her hand gently. She wasn't finished. "All the money from my music sales, from tonight's performance, from everything I do, half of it goes to this foundation. Because I know there are thousands of kids out there right now who just need one chance. One person to believe in them. One opportunity to show what they can do." The audience was on their feet now, clapping and cheering. Maya felt tears on her cheeks but smiled through them. "My mom used to tell me that music was the one thing no one could take from us. She was right. But she also taught me that the best gifts are the ones you share. So this is me, sharing everything I've been given." She played 3 more pieces that night. Original compositions she'd written over the past few months. Each one told a different story, explored a different emotion. The audience listened to every note, and by the end there wasn't a dry eye in the theater. After the performance, during the reception, people swarmed Maya, but this time she didn't feel overwhelmed. She felt grateful. A young girl, maybe 14, approached shyly. "I saw your video," the girl said quietly. "The one from the restaurant. I play violin, but my family can't afford lessons anymore. Your foundation. Could someone like me apply?" Maya knelt down to the girl's level. "What's your name?" "Lily." "Lily, you're exactly who this foundation is for. Give me your email. We'll make sure you get lessons, good ones." The girl's face lit up like the sun, and Maya felt something warm spread through her chest. This was why everything had happened. Not for fame or money or recognition, for this moment right here. Later that night, Maya sat alone in her small dorm room at the academy. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. She had a real bed, a desk, and most importantly, a piano. She looked at the business card she'd kept from that first night. Edward's card, now worn from being carried everywhere. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through messages. There were hundreds, but one made her pause. It was from someone who'd seen her performance video. My daughter died 3 years ago. She was a musician too. I haven't listened to music since. But I heard your piece, and for the first time I could remember her without just feeling pain. Thank you for giving me that gift. Maya read the message twice, tears blurring her vision. She typed back a simple response. Your daughter's memory honored my mom's. That's what music does. It connects us across time and space and loss. Thank you for listening. She set down her phone and looked at the photo on her desk. Her mom, healthy and smiling, sitting at their old piano. Maya picked up the frame. I did it, Mom, she whispered. I'm sharing our music with the world, just like you told me to. In the quiet of her room, Maya could almost hear her mother's voice. I'm proud of you, baby. I always knew you would shine. Maya set the photo down gently and turned to her piano. She had a new piece forming in her mind, a piece about second chances and how one moment of kindness could change everything. A piece about a girl who got rejected at a door but walked through anyway. She placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new performances, new opportunities to lift others up. But tonight, Maya just played for herself and her mom. She played for every kid who'd ever been told they weren't good enough. She played for everyone who'd ever had a door slammed in their face. And somewhere in the music, there was her mother's voice again, mixed with her own, creating something beautiful from the broken pieces. The echo of tomorrow had become the song of today, and it was only the beginning.